Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth. And for today's video, I am going to be refilming, actually. I just realized this is upside down. I'm going to be refilming some swatches and comparisons of a portion of the Pat McGrath holiday collection. So you may have seen my last Pat McGrath video where I did a review and demonstration of this Divine Blush and Glow Cheek Palette in Nude Venus. For whatever reason, this came to Sephora. So I picked that up at Sephora, but then later, I guess, rest of the holiday collection launched. So I purchased the other blush palette, the two 5-pan eyeshadow palettes, and then the single blush and highlighter. So I'll do comparisons of all the cheek products. I will also swatch the eyeshadows. And I did actually film this once before, but the audio was corrupted in that video, so I couldn't use it. So the products are not brand new, so I've already swatched them once. And if you do want to see these on the face, on my skin tone, I need to film my unboxing of the FabFitFun Winter Box, so I plan to use this eyeshadow palette and these two cheek products, I think. And then I guess I'll just try to incorporate the rest into another video. But I did want to refilm this video. Not only did I spend a lot of money on all of this, but this week Pat McGrath is having her Black Friday sale, which is an incredible deal. And before I launch into this, I'll just let you know that I will have timestamps down below. So if you are only considering one product or another, you can skip to that portion of the video. But to give you the details of the sale, it'll be 30% off a $50 order, 35% off a $150 order, or 40% off a $250 order. And if you spend over $300, you get a free quad. So I'll also swatch this one. This is the Bronze Borealis eyeshadow quad. This has been out for a while now. So she had offered one of the Blitz Astral quads, which is a quad of all her special shades, but I guess she probably ran out of stock of that. This is the current offer. It might actually be a more wearable option for some people, to be honest. So I'll swatch that as well. And then I also pulled from my collection, I'll do some comparisons of the two other, I guess, what are these? Sublime Skin highlighters. I think that's what they're all called. So I have the lighter of the Bridgerton ones, the more icy gold one, and then also this one in Lunar Nude, and this one had a gold packaging, very pretty. So I'll do some comparison swatches of those. I also have the kind of larger Bridgerton blush palette. So this one had two of, I think, her permanent blush shades. It has Cherish and Nymphette. I don't think any of those are repeats, but I'll swatch the highlighter in this one. And then I also have some of her other blushes. So I have the Divine Rose in the permanent line, and I'll talk about the difference in packaging, and I'll compare it to the Divine Rose in this palette. And I also purchased at one point the Divine Blush Duo in Divine Rose 2. So we have Divine Rose 1, Divine Rose 2, and then this palette also has Divine Rose 3. And then finally, I think last comparison I have is I do have also the Hourglass. I'm just going to call this the Elephant palette. This is the one that they designed that's more for medium skin tones, but I like the design of this one. And then I also have the Charlotte Tilbury Beautifying Face palette in the Fair Light or Fair Medium variation. So I will do a little bit of a comparison with those as well, in case you were thinking of only picking up one blush palette. But if you are going to purchase any of these products, I think now is definitely the time to do it. These retail for $62 each before the discount. And of course, the percentage off that you get is dependent on how much you spend, but it's not hard to get up to $250 before the discount, to be honest. So these, like I said, are $62 each, but you can get both of them for $106, and then you would get 40% off of that. So I think I have a little screenshot that I can pop up of how your cart might look if you purchase everything to maximize the discount. And I'll talk more about which shades are new and which ones are repeats. So those are 106, and then these are a really great deal as well, which I did not, it looks like, note down. So there are some exclusions. I think items already marked down, for example, are not eligible, and I think some of the Bridgerton products are not eligible for the discount. But I think all of the new holiday collection is. Okay, so these are $36 each, which I think is already a great deal. But then if you get both of them, you can get it for $65, so it would be 40% off of $65, which again is a great deal. And then the free gift with purchase, by the way, while I'm looking at it, this has a $54 value. So you could also pick that up by itself if you didn't want to spend $300, minus 40%, of course. And then the other products, I think the highlighter I remember was $60 and this was $39, but together those are only $86, and of course you would get conceivably a 40% off discount on top of that. So just make sure to pay attention to those bundles in case you are interested in both items. So let's talk about the blush palette that I've already featured in a video, and I will quickly swatch it. So just a quick word on packaging. So for me, and I'll repeat the joke that one of Hope Mess Tom's subscribers said, and I think a lie, where every morning she just spends like 20 minutes like opening and closing all of her Pat McGrath blushes to find which one she wants. So that is why I keep them in the carton. It's a pretty easy carton to open and close, but this does have the name of it on the top. So if you know the name of the shade that you want, it's at least pretty easy to grab. But otherwise, once you get the blush out of the package, it's in a black plastic with no discernible shade information other than that teeny tiny little writing there. And to open it, you push in and then lift up like so, and it goes back that far. It does have a nice mirror. And these blushes, by the way, are, it says made in Italy, 18-month shelf life. They are 9.7 grams or 0.34 ounces. And this is also made in Italy, so it's good to see that she didn't skimp on the formulation for the holiday collection. These are total weight 20 grams, and you're getting 5 different shades. So let's take a look at the inside here. So like I said, I did order this one from Sephora. I do like that it has the foiling on the cover, but otherwise it's just kind of your standard cardboard packaging, and it has a sticker on the back with the shade names. So the shades aren't printed inside, but at least you can refer back, or refer to the back rather. So yeah, it's definitely not the most luxe packaging. I think I pointed out before that this one had a little bit of kind of damage or wear to it, even when I first got it. So I'm not sure how well this will hold up, you know, if you really kind of use and abuse it. It does have a nice magnetic closure, and it has a mirror. So you could use this as a face palette on the go or whatever. It does also lay flat, as you can see. It doesn't stay up by itself. And so this has the 4 blush shades and the highlighter, and I'll just move it up there so you don't get distracted. So that is the size comparison of the blushes. Okay, so I'll just demo a couple different brush shapes and sizes for comparison. So this is the BK Angie Hot and Flashy A507, and you can see it's pretty easy just to get the one shade that you want. You can see I got some on my hand there. The whole brush kind of fits in, so you shouldn't get, I guess, more pigmentation kind of focused in one area unless you just dip it in like I did. And then we also have, this is my favorite blush brush, the Rougher number 5, and again, like, you can really target which one you want. And then this is the Rougher number 4. I think this is your more typical blush brush shape and size. I think this is modeled after a MAC brush, so again, you can certainly see you wouldn't have any trouble with that. And I guess one of my main critiques is that the highlighter I think is entirely too large. Don't think most people are going to be exhausting that, but who knows. So you obviously have no problem getting either of the highlighter brushes I tend to use into the pan. I do wish that she had just kind of chopped that in two and maybe put like a bronzer shade in, or a different formula of highlighter, or maybe 2 shades of highlighter. Just something else, just to give you some more options. I think if she had put a bronzer in the palette, these both would have sold out instantly because everyone's been clamoring for a bronzer from Pat McGrath for a long while now. Okay, so let's talk about the shades. So one of the reasons I decided to pick this up is because, like I mentioned, it's easier for me to grab a blush palette like this that has a few different options, different tones, different, I guess, depths, that kind of thing, different finishes, instead of rooting around in my collection for the specific blush that I want, because I do have multiple blushes in Pat McGrath's formula. So I like it for that reason, and I guess if you wanted to travel, it would be less bulky, that kind of thing. And just on that note, I'll quickly just do a little comparison of the kind of pan layout and size. So for the Hourglass palettes, I know they're really popular, and I've certainly bought my fair share over the years, but I think you can see this has a total of, let's see, it's 1.4 times 6. So I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I think it's less than 20. So you're getting less product. This is also a different formula. I think all of their powders like this are baked. And kind of what I was talking about, getting your blush in or whatever, I guess you can do it, but depending on what you're going for. And this, I think, also has, yeah, this is a bronzer. So just think about what brush shape and size you want to use for bronzer. Like I said, this is a pretty small blush brush. That doesn't have any problems. Again, showing you this one barely fits in. Same with this one. Obviously the highlighters, you're not going to have really any issue because you're probably using a pretty small brush. But for comparison, so this is the massive BK 105 brush, which I like to use with the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer. That is going to take up a lot. So just be aware you might be getting some other shades in. And then this is my favorite bronzer brush. This is the Rephr number 22, and same thing, like you kind of would have to be a little strategic about how you get in there. So that's always been one of my chief complaints about this type of palette that they put out. You can see the mirror doesn't go completely flat. It doesn't stay up on its own either. It does have a nice kind of magnetic tin, which is fun. I think this is the first year I've bought one of their tin styles. I guess I'll leave this one open. So just for, like I said, the Charlotte Tilbury comparison, it's, I guess, closer in size to the Hourglass if you were more concerned about space in your makeup bag for travel. This one isn't magnetic, it just has the clasp, but it does stay up by itself, will also go flat. And this one, obviously you have 2 blushes and 2 highlighters, so we're going 6, 5, 4. And this one has, is it 4 times 3.8? So I think this one might have more product than the Hourglass, but not as much as the Pat McGrath, based on my kind of mental math. So yeah, so I think with this, you're maybe not as concerned with getting into other shades, especially because these are blushes and highlighters and not bronzers. So I don't think most people would have an issue with this palette. Also has a really pretty plastic case. Okay, so the shades for this one, I just put away all of my brushes so I don't have a pointing tool. This one has, let's see, Desert Orchid, which is a bronze rose satin pearl. So we have, so this is Desert Orchid, bronze rose satin pearl. This one is Divine Rose 3. This is the only new blush shade to this palette. And this is a Coral Rose Demi Matte. Then we have Nude Venus, which is a peachy pink satin pearl, and Paradise Venus, which is a terracotta demi matte. And then Sunset Nectar, it describes as a cool golden pink. I'll insert the kind of arm swatches on the Pat McGrath website of the, I guess, 3 permanent blush shades. So this one is number 3, this one is number 2, and this one is number 9. And if you'd like to see me wear Divine Rose 3 on my cheeks, then you can check out my earlier video. So those are the 4 shades. I think I even tried to use that one as a bit of a contour, which I don't think really worked out too well for me, but it's not really intended to be used that way. I think I saw someone in my comments say that you can see just how pigmented these are, even for blushes. I'm just blowing away the excess. So those are the 4 blush shades, so much more neutral. And I'm just swatching these on an unprimed arm as well. So that is the Sunset Nectar highlighter, which looks like so. I think I could make it work on my skin tone. Again, I used that in that review video. So those are the kind of more neutral shades. And then going over to the Divine Rose palette, which has a similar style of packaging. Again, the craftsmanship on these is not ideal, but her formulation is really beautiful. And I find that, you know, as you can tell, these are pretty pigmented. Depending on your skin tone, I would say some of the darker shades you definitely want to go in with a lighter hand. And that is what these look like. So unfortunately, Pat McGrath doesn't have shade descriptions for these. This is a Pat McGrath exclusive. So this one has Desert Orchid 2. So we're going in with the sequel to this first shade up here, which is interesting that she did that. So we have Desert Orchid 2, and then we have, let's see, number 2 is Divine Rose, which is the same as the permanent. I believe these 2 are in the permanent line. Yeah, this one is Electric Bloom, number 4. Okay, so we have Desert Orchid 2. I'm getting so confused when I'm doing this because it's not the most intuitive. Okay, so these 2 are repeats. Desert Orchid 2, Divine Rose. This one is Electric Bloom, and that is Peony Rose. And the highlighter is Nude Nectar. For the permanent shades, she describes Divine Rose 1 as a cool mauve rose demi-matte. That is shade number 5 in the swatches on the website. And this Electric Bloom shade is a vivid coral demi-matte, and that is shade number 8. So we're getting the 2 darkest shades. I think there's 9 in total from her original launch. Luckily for me, I didn't really get too many repeats aside from Divine Rose, because I didn't pick up shades in the original launch that were repeated. Okay, so again, I'll just kind of go in. I think I did it this way. This one, it seems to be a little bit crumblier. Like you can see, I don't know, the texture picking up a little bit more. The embossing is fading quicker. So those are the 4 shades. I think, to be honest, I think the Nude Venus color story is a little bit more cohesive, which generally you're only wearing 1 blush shade at a time, maybe sometimes 2. I guess you have to decide whether you tend to always gravitate towards the same type of blush color, and so you'd appreciate those more subtle differences between them, or if you really want to have more variety. I think in this one you get the nude, you get a mauve, more of a pink, and a coral. This one you also get a nude. These are both leaning more natural peachy. That one's a little bit more pink. And then we have the deeper one there. And to swatch the, yeah, you can see the kind of fallout there. To swatch this shade, so I don't honestly think those are that different. So I'll go ahead and load up a little bit more on my finger. They say that they are different shades. They're not repeated names. These are, I think, just a little bit difficult to open. Okay, so that was the Nude Venus shade. That was the Divine Rose shade. So you'll have to let me know how much of a difference you really think there is. And while I have those, the Pat McGrath blush palette, like I said, this one has Cherish and Nymphette. And this highlighter, I'd say is a little bit darker. So really none of these are probably my ideal highlighter shade. I guess in terms of my purchasing plans for Black Friday, I did pick up the Mothership in, is it Midnight Sun? The one that's been marked down to like $77 for the longest time. And I don't think the 40% off applies to that, but they were doing some kind of, I don't know, additional 10% off code that I was able to use. So I got it down to like 60 something. So I went ahead and picked that up, but I don't know, I thought about picking up the larger Mothership, the holiday one, but I don't know. If the Venus at Fleurs, Voyeuristic Vixen ever comes back into stock, I would be tempted, but just seems to be, okay, so that's the quad. Just seems to be a little elusive. Okay, and this is the highlighter from this year, and this is the other blush. So I just wanted to kind of show you the difference in texture. And this one does have a difference on the cover, which I appreciate. So you can get a little bit more of an idea of what you're grabbing. Same with the blush, which is one reason why I went ahead and picked it up, because that is obviously going to be different than this blush compact, which is the same as all the others. And even the duo is the same. So I like being able to distinguish that way. Okay, so let's talk about the highlighters. It's an embarrassment of Pat McGrath here. Okay, so that is what this one looks like, and I guess I try to go in to the same part of the pan. This, I think, has a higher reflect to it. This one is an incandescent gold number 2. It's the Sublime Skin Highlighter, which is Lighten Up. It's a little bit more yellow than I would prefer. And this one I think is last year's, which I've seen some people, I think, talk about this one versus this year's and have said it's not all that different. This one might have a little less underlying pigment. It's hard to say. So these are the 3 highlighters of this texture that I have. So yeah, so you probably don't need both. But if the Bridgerton one, for example, you already have it and it's too light for you, or you want something warmer, then the highlighter from this year could offer you that. And hopefully you can just see the difference in reflect between the 2 formulas. So those are, I think, all of the highlighter swatches I wanted to share with you. Let's see, what else do I have on my list? Okay, so I think this one is Divine Rose, the original, shade number 2. So I think my skin is pretty dry. Okay, so that's the one from the palette. And just to do a quick comparison to the, just get a little bit more on the finger, the original. The one from the holiday palette seems honestly a little bit darker, but I think it might just be a matter of how much I'm applying. I guess the embossing is kind of scaled down, so maybe like the highs and lows aren't as pronounced, so I'm picking up more product when I swirl my finger in. But I think the quality is the same. All right, so that is all Divine Rose 1, and while I'm on a Divine Rose kick here, let's swatch Divine Rose 2. So this has the 2 different colors, and because, again, I've swatched this one, it's not as distinct, but basically the roses are one shade and the rays are another. So I'll just swatch this portion and then this portion. I have already swirled them together. So that is the 2 halves there. So Divine Rose 1 and then the 2 halves. And then again, if I just swirl my finger in, that's where you land. So I think, you know, you're getting maybe more of that bright pink. So if you wanted to have something a little bit more subtle, then you'd probably want to lean in more towards that gray side. And again, I'll go ahead and pull out, this particular blush was on sale when I bought it. I think it was marked down to like 30 something. I think now it's maybe back up to 44. So this is, again, the reference number 4, just for reference. So, you know, it's a big enough pan, I would say, for that. My preferred blush brush is a little bit fluffier, but because there aren't any kind of neighboring colors, again, you can be a little bit strategic in how you go into the pan. And then finally, we have Divine Rose 3, which is in the Nude Venus palette. So that is the one in the bottom left. And I'll make my same joke about how there needs to be a random Pat McGrath name generator for all of her Divine Rose, Nude Venuses, etc. Okay, so this is the Divine Rose 3. So a little bit peachier, I would say, than the other two. I'd say that one's definitely more mauve-y, more pink, and more peach. And I guess while I have this one open, I'll just mention that aside from my general gripes of the packaging, one of the things holding me back from purchasing the holiday palette is that I think having the background like this just makes it look a little cheap, how it is cardboard instead of plastic. Like these 5-pan palettes, she did actually go with plastic on the inside, even though the outer packaging is still cardboard. So I don't know, feel like that makes it look a little bit more expensive anyway. Okay, so I think that was it for Divine Rose. We also need to look at Nude Venus. So I'll close these and go on a treasure hunt for Nude Venus. So number 2 in this one is Nude Venus I. So we'll swatch that. So very pretty. And this again, she described as peachy pink satin pearl. And then Nude Venus 2, which is this guy. I like that she changed up the embossing and added those stars. Reminds me of Hedy Lamarr. So this is Nude Venus 2. I always forget to do a kind of finger comparison. So that's the difference on the fingers. I think the one in the palette, the original Nude Venus, is a little bit peachier, less brown. So that is Nude Venus 2. I think I might get more use out of that because it's a little bit more neutral, actually. But I think both are pretty. And I think, obviously, that Nude Venus has done well if she's come out with a sequel. I don't think I swatched the Nude Venus 2 next to the other blushes, but like I said, I will be wearing this on the cheeks in that other video. I also find it amusing that she's calling this Nude Venus and the highlighter is Venusian Nude, like she just switched them around. Okay, so we have Nude Venus 2, highlighters. I think Desert Orchid is the only other kind of sequel that we have to contend with. So that is shade number 1 in this palette, which I think is in the permanent line, as I said, but it's not one that I had. So that's Desert Orchid. And then Desert Orchid 2 is this guy. So that's 1, that's 2. I think those are honestly pretty similar. If you have the original Desert Orchid, I don't know that you need to rush out and get Desert Orchid 2. This one is maybe a little more neutral. This one's a little bit warmer, maybe. Okay, so I think I covered all my bases here with the face comparisons. I'm sure I'll figure out something in editing that I didn't do. Okay, so let us look at the eyeshadows. So I want to keep this out. This is the Bronze Borealis quad. And normally when I swatch things, I do brush swatches, but for this, I just want to give you the quick idea of what they look like. I think these are all of her kind of normal shimmer formula. They're a little deep, to be honest. I kind of wish she had maybe swapped out one of these two for a lighter shimmer. But if you you are into this color story. They are very beautiful. Again, a little crumbly, but very beautiful. And I guess on that note, I'll do a little bit of comparison of eyeshadow packaging. So I don't have that many Pat McGrath quads, so I don't run into quite the same problem as I do with the blushes. This one, it does still have fairly small writing, but at least the shade names are on here to help a little bit, even though they're not maybe the most descriptive. There's Lunar Legend, Sienna Rose, Mink Dusk, and Cyber Bronze. So that is the quad, and it's a little bit larger than the blushes, for example. Has a magnetic closure, which the blushes don't do. Has a mirror, doesn't fold back all the way, but it does stay upright. So that's one example of her packaging. Of course, her most luxurious packaging is the motherships. And as you can tell from all these boxes, I have taken to keeping the boxes that things come in because I think it's just a little bit easier to grab what you want. And the same goes for the motherships. I think the first one that I purchased was the Divine Rose, and I actually got rid of the box, which I kind of regret. So for the, I think this is my third one. I think I have Divine Rose, Bronze Seduction, this one, and then I'll have the Midnight Sun. So this one has very heavy packaging, has the gold back. Again, the actual palette name is very small, it's a little sticker. And then you open it up and you get the beveled mirror and the magnetic packaging. That is kind of similar to the quads in terms of staying upright but not folding flat. Also has the nice detail there. And also the shades come in a little like insert type thing. So what I actually did with the mothership, in case you just really don't care about the packaging, but you did want to know what the shades are called for some reason, I actually just cut out that portion, or cut it to size so it fit. And then she did change how these look as well. Like this had the gold foil and it had something on the back, which makes it a little bit more luxurious looking than, I just pulled the Bronze Seduction as well. This is just black and white with nothing on the back. So not quite as luxurious in that way. Yeah, so we have that, and then some other things that she's come out with over the years. She had this really cheap 5-pan, and I think compared to the 5-pans from this holiday, this was actually on her website until kind of recently actually. She'd marked it down to like $12. So you can see there's really tiny pans. It's in this kind of cheap acrylic, although it did have the gold lettering there, and then it just had the shades and everything on the back. The ones from this year are like so. I think this looks nicer even though it is cardboard, and this one had the clasp, which always seems a little less luxurious to me. This one has a magnetic closure, does have a small mirror, and like I said, the back here is plastic, which I think goes a long way as well. Sticker is still kind of cheap looking to me, but so there's that. There was this little guy that she put out, which I still think is really cute. This one looks like so. I do have a swatch video. This is like really a travel palette type size. And just again to compare here, I'll show you the Bridgerton palette. Also had cardboard. This one didn't have a plastic on the back, had a nice mirror though. And then the last one, which she brought out from, I guess, retirement not too long ago, were these, like, when she takes out the vowels and mothership. So this one had the elastic and then this trifold, and had the mirror, had a overleaf with the shade names and the plastic. I know some people really hated on this. It stays open like this, so you could hold it up and use it that way, but I guess I understand why some people may not have liked this, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. And you do have both the magnetic closure and the elastic. So, I don't know. That to me was nice. And then the last thing I thought I would share with you on camera is I got this little single from, it was in a BoxyCharm. So I thought I would open it on camera. Her really annoying sequin packaging, but I have this water bottle It's the Sephora Loves DC, if you can see it. And I've just collected all of the Pat McGrath sparkles into this one vessel just to, I don't know, have them and make them attractive. So get out this little single. I think these are still available on her website, at least some of the shades. To get every last sequin. I think I've mentioned before that my conspiracy is that she packages some things in that way to discourage like returns or using it in store, I guess. Looks like this one is actually taped shut, which again cheapens the experience a little bit. I'm pretty sure these are being discontinued, so these aren't kind of long for this world. But I thought it would be nice to have a kind of medium toned brown shade like this to add in to other palettes that don't have a good crease shade like this for me. I'm gonna have to use Goo Gone on this, which drives me nuts. Especially for kind of a, I know this, she went through a phase of everything lab samples, but not my favorite. So this is the shade Statuesque. I don't think these are removable either. The actual little component is cool though. It feels nice and creamy, but yeah, this is a really good, just basic crease shade for me. So I thought it would be easy to just have this on hand in case I needed to reach for it for another palette. Is this magnetic? I guess it is. Seems like if she was worried about that coming open, thus the tape, she could have either just made it into a traditional kind of clasp or increased the strength of the magnet, either way. Okay, so enough of that. I just thought I would document that. So I think the only thing left is to swatch the palettes here. Like I said, I do plan to wear this one on the eyes, and then I'll try to incorporate the other one in a video, but I don't know that it will be in the near future. Okay, so I don't know if the shades really matter. There's Mercurial Rose, Mahogany Angel, Coral Kiss, Plum Eclipse, and Naked Bronze. And again, these have the same kind of really, I don't know, it's kind of a loose but thick formula. Like you can see it comes up in chunks almost. And then I guess I'll go ahead and swatch this one on my pinky. So those are 4 of the shades. I have to say, in the past, like the Pat McGrath, like her normal formula has not been my favorite. I tend to prefer Natasha Denona palettes, especially because they just have more mid-tones or light shades to help blend. I feel like Pat McGrath can really go for the drama. Like in this one, for example, you have one matte shade, the rest are shimmer, but the matte shade is definitely on the deeper side. That's the last shade there. So really pretty. I think you just going in have to be prepared for blending. Does this one have shade descriptions? Yeah, on her website it says Infinite Eye Artistry, sized to go. Yeah, so it doesn't give any specific shade descriptions. She does have some suggested uses for each shade, which you can probably guess based on the colors and everything. This is the silver shade that I think everyone is going gaga for. I think my understanding is that it is a different formula than she's released before. That really has more of that kind of high shine wet look to it without it being one of her kind of celestial topper shades. So I hope she kind of trends towards that in the future, because I think I prefer it. I prefer a metallic that has a little bit more opacity or underlying pigment to it. Those are both really beautiful too as well. That olivey green. I wonder if Hannah Louise Poston has this palette. I think she does. And I know she just did a Duping the Vibes type video with Lisa Eldridge. I don't know if she swatched that one, but it does have that kind of grainy antique gold. So those are the 2 palettes there. So hopefully that kind of helps you if you were trying to decide between them. I think the great thing with the bundles too that I talked about is you're not getting duplicates of something, which I've seen like Charlotte Tilbury do, for example, but you could still keep one for yourself and gift one if, you know, if you wanted to maybe keep the more adventurous one for yourself and then gift the more kind of, I don't know, everyday, more neutral one to a friend, or depending on how well you know your friends, they might appreciate the more dramatic color story. Okay, so I think I've talked long enough here. If you do have any specific requests or comparisons that you'd like me to do on my Instagram, I'd be happy to do that. But until then, I think I will, you know, start cleaning all this up. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And I hope you guys all have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US, or if not, I hope you just have a great week. Make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Bye.